the demonstrators are right to say that the problem is not Netanyahu, is not the policy of Israel. It's the very nature, ideological nature of the regime.
Ilan Pappé, benvenuto nella redazione di Fanpage. Lei ha appena scritto un libro in cui ripercorre in qualche modo la storia dell'insediamento sionista in Palestina e la successiva nascita dello Stato di Israele, con tutti poi i conflitti che lo hanno accompagnato. In queste ore Israele prova a ridisegnare i confini e gli equilibri dell'intero Medio Oriente. Era un finale inevitabile o questa guerra è frutto dell'affermazione di una destra messianica e suprematista?
I think the conflict is inevitable because there is a basic problem with the idea of a Jewish state in the middle of the Arab world that imposes itself by force on millions of Palestinians against their own will. And this has been the case from the very beginning of the Zionist project. And the problem has not changed. What changed was the method by which the state is trying to impose its will, and the method by which the Palestinians are trying to resist this imposition. But in many ways, we are in the same historical chapter where the idea of creating a European Jewish state in the middle of the Arab world is not working unless you use a lot of force, and when force is not enough, you have to use more force. Unfortunately, nobody right now is offering either for the Israelis or the Palestinians any different scenario how to move into the future. So I think that the fact that a right-wing government is in power in Israel since November 2022 makes it even more difficult to see how we get out of this situation. But they are not the reason that we have now a conflict that escalates into a regional war. We have a conflict like this because the basic issue of creating a Jewish state in Palestine is not being resolved.
A Roma nei prossimi giorni si terrà una manifestazione di solidarietà nei confronti della Palestina in cui si sostiene che ogni israeliano è un colono. Non la preoccupa questo clima? Non crede che la logica di guerra possa portare alla reciproca disumanizzazione?
No, I don't think so. Israel is still a colonialist project today. And as a colonialist project, of course, everyone who is part of it is part of the colonialist project. That doesn't mean that we demonize all the Israeli Jews. We're just saying that the nature of the regime is such that as long as it continues, there is very little hope for ending the oppression of the Palestinians. So I don't think that this is dehumanizing the Israelis. I think this is for the first time articulating clearly who the Israeli or what the Israeli state is about. Many Europeans misunderstood the whole Zionist project. Some of them thought it was a socialist dream. That's why the communists in Italy supported it. Some thought it was the only liberal democracy in the Middle East. That's why the liberal and conservative parties in Italy and in Europe supported it. But they never understood the real nature of this idea that you take by force the country of someone else. And you are not able to control it without oppression, occupation, colonization, ethnic cleansing. In the last year, Israel even is using genocide in order to do it. So I think the demonstrators are right to say that the problem is not Netanyahu, is not the policy of Israel. It's the very nature, ideological nature of the regime. An ability to understand that Zionism today is an ideology that justifies the genocide in Gaza, the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians in the West Bank, the discrimination against the Palestinians inside Israel.
Lei pensa che in qualche modo il governo Netanyahu, nei piani del governo Netanyahu ci sia la volontà di estendere i confini dello Stato di Israele a quella che era l'Israele biblica, insomma?
Yeah, I think this government is a very fanatic version of Zionism. You can call it neo-Zionists. And yes, I think they believe they have an historical moment to not only to extend the border, which is less important. They think they have an opportunity to get rid of many Palestinians in order to make sure that what they call Greater Israel, which is Israel today with the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, would be mostly a Jewish state. In fact, they even think that now is the last opportunity to do it. And that's why I'm very worried, because I think they will use even more brutal measures.
Stiamo affrontando una guerra che sembra non avere soluzione. Come è possibile non perdere la speranza?
In the short term, I don't think there's much we can do and much we can hope for. But I think in the long term, there are some positive indications that the whole idea that, to my mind, is the reason for the conflict. The whole idea that Israel has to be a Jewish, ethnic, racist state, otherwise there is no existence for the Jews either in historical Palestine or in the world, is not valid anymore. And I think that if the Palestinian younger generation would retake the leadership in a united way, in a representative way, in a democratic way, it can offer a new way for all of us. I do think that in the long run, historically, Palestine would be returned to the Arab world, would be returned to the Palestinian people. This is a long process, but I don't see the Zionist state, Israel, surviving despite its military power and the huge support it gets from the West.
Parliamo del suo prossimo libro che uscirà in Italia con il titolo di La fine di Israele. Cosa vuol dire e che cosa può dirci anche a riguardo?
The idea is that whether you are afraid of the end of Israel or whether you want Israel to end, you have to discuss it, because this is a realistic prospect. The whole Israel belongs to an area where the European idea of a nation state is not working. It's not working not only in Israel, in Palestine. So I think this is an important conversation to have before it happens. Sometimes if you have the conversation after it happens, it's too late, and what you have instead is chaos, violence, as we can see in Syria. A failed state can continue to exist for 20 to 30 years, and the people living there are suffering from violence and chaos. So I suggest in this book that the idea of replacing Israel today with a democratic state is a very positive, moral, but also practical idea, because it has an historical model that already existed in Palestine, and it is a model based on the principle of equality and democracy. It is a model that many Palestinians agree to. We have a problem with the Jewish society, I understand that, but I think that if the Palestinians, that's what I claim in the book, that if the Palestinians would clearly say that they support the idea of a one democratic state from the river to the sea, I think it will also influence the more progressive forces inside the Israeli society to support the idea, and definitely the world to support the idea. So the book suggests a different agenda. What is the agenda today? The two-state solution. That's what Europe and America wants. This is not realistic. So we have to think out of the box. We have to think differently. We don't have to invent the wheel. These ideas were there before, but I think they were not relevant before. I think they're very relevant. So I put a question mark on the end of Israel. I'm not saying that I'm a prophet, that I know it's going to happen, but I'm afraid we're going that direction, and this could be very dangerous and disaster, or could be an opportunity for building something better.